Welcome to Breaking the News Plus. So, anybody interested in politics last night was looking at Michigan. The primary between the Democrats in that race couldn't be more stark about what the Democratic Party is staring down right now. Basically, two parties within a party. And to join me to have a conversation about that and that Senate race and some other things is former mayor and Democrat R.T. Rybak. Welcome, R.T.
Good to see you.
So, I wanted to talk to you, RT, because when I was learning about the Michigan race a little bit more yesterday, as it was primary day there, you have Abdul El-Sayed, who has just won, versus a kind of staid Democrat in Haley Stevens. And so you had a conventional Democrat who was getting the backing of a lot of the party faithful, and then you had this new face. And we've seen that all over the country. What do you make of that as a Democrat?
Well, I think there's, and let me talk as an American in this, because I think this applies to everyone. One of the things is to acknowledge, there is this sort of split within the party, which is sort of humorous because why is the DFL called the DFL? It's because there was the Democratic Party and then the more progressive Farmer Labor Party, and Hubert Humphrey put them together, and people began to understand that these messages can work together. A political movement happened in Minnesota that became an incredible thing. So let's just remember that. But, I think if people are trying to understand this, I think it'd be a really good idea to turn off some TV, not you. But this narrative is very comfortable nationally. But let's unpack this a little bit because there are several things going on. There is a difference between the quality of candidates. Mandami was a compelling candidate, so is El-Sayed in Michigan. Stevens kind of was not. There is a difference in age and how different generations are looking at this moment, but also money. You cannot explain why the Yankees win more than the Twins without talking about money. And you cannot explain what happened last night or what's happening around the country without recognizing there's massive independent expenditures that are tipping balances. Right now, the Chuck Schumer and the people who lead the Senate are putting massive amounts, along with other independent groups, AIPAC and others, $60 million into the Michigan Senate race, and they lost. And forgetting who you're for, I think that's great news, because the pollution of politics with independent expenditures based on a really bad Supreme Court decision means that we have to be subjected to just horrible stuff being thrown at us. And I hope one lesson everybody takes out of this is we need to elect people who will go into Congress and make sure that we put significant limits on public financing. So that's a part of it too. The generational issue is quite important in this. And I think one of the things is it's important to think that what is progressive right now is very different generationally, but it's also really important to look at affordability within this context. How can somebody vote for Obama, Trump, Bernie Sanders? Well, there's a link here between people who think the economic system is not working and different people with different solutions. So now look at a young voter who looks at that and they can't afford a home. They've got massive college debt. They look at AI coming and disrupting what they think is going to be their career path. You look at all of those things, and a person who's 25 looks at this very differently than people who were privileged to come of age economically in a period where I was. And so you wonder why young voters feel differently. Then you put in this word socialism, which to those of us who grew up in the tail end of the Cold War, it's, oh my God, it's communist. That's not at all what people are talking about. If you get Social Security, if you believe that veterans should get preferential health care, if you believe in the GI Bill, if you believe in all sorts of things, you believe in some element of social involvement in the safety net. So I think there's almost, like how your kids will use certain words with you that they know will set you off. I think there's a certain element of that with the word socialism that we need to set aside There's also a progressivism that I think was very dominant a few years ago that was very much about identity politics and things that became hot button issues with the culture wars. The things that are being talked about now, Medicare for all, most importantly, college loan and others, are really about bread and butter affordability, which is very different than just saying, I'm a progressive or I'm a lefty. And that actually attracts, on some seemingly strange, but I guess logical level, somebody who would vote for Trump and Bernie Sanders and maybe El Said.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the change, it can be distilled in a tweet or a Facebook post, but that it really does just come back to change and that we generationally are having different lived experiences of being an American, whether
Yes.
you're a Republican, Democrat, independent, a little bit of both, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The economic and the state of the nation is the same. AI affects everybody, the economy affects everybody.
Yeah.
College loans affect everybody. And so perhaps it's just that, like each party, the
Yeah.
Republican Party went through a change with the Tea Party and then the Trump administration moving it in a different direction, and the Democratic Party is changing. Is that a bad thing?
Well, I buy that one to a certain degree, but there's a whole lot of elements of that that I wouldn't go to. I would say, remember the word hope in the Obama campaign. So I was very involved in the Obama campaign, and hope is a very open sort of thing. But if you look generationally at the word hope, hope matters a lot right now because I believe very many young people, and I think they're telling us this clearly, don't have as much hope. So forget the right-left continuum for a moment and look at the Mandami effort in New York. And all of a sudden, people who had turned off saw a path, whether it's the path you like or not. They saw it, and they saw it through a lens, not just of, I hate this person's a crook, this or that, but the optimism of saying we can do big things together.
Mm-hmm.
Walk around our city parks. Take a look at the infrastructure, the roads, the streets, the railings. They were built by the WPA in the 30s at a time when the country was in economic challenge. And we've never really done a big public works program to that degree. I guess a couple of things with Obama and Biden, but that sort of thing, all of a sudden, when you sort of walk people through that, go, yeah, actually, we should put people to work and we should build good, wonderful things for ourselves. That's a hopeful message as opposed to this guy's a crook, and some of them are. And this,
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I guess I was just not articulating it well enough to know that parties do go through change. And yes, there is a different message in that.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm just saying there's a nuance beyond that. Both parties are going through a thing. Even the idea of a two-party system right now
Right.
is something that may or may not make sense. There may be thinking more in terms of multiple parties that can come together in different ways on different issues. If you look at us being stuck in, gee, I either belong over here, I belong over there, and I'm going to be like that all the time. I mean, we see this in local politics in Minneapolis City Council. We see the mayor is his block and the council has a block, and they stay in those blocks. The kind of politics that gets things done is one that gets unstuck. That doesn't mean to be a moderate nothing. It means to sometimes have ideas that are considered extreme over here and extreme over there. And you don't have to buy the political straitjacket you're given. And I think that's part of the dynamic we have right now. So I don't know, maybe having other parties that sometimes form alliances and don't, may be part of the element. Maybe we don't force everybody into two.
My final question is just kind of circling back to that word electability. You have been a part of electoral politics for a very long time. Do you think that those conversations are even had by voters anymore of, I'm going to pick this person because they're electable against the other person? It's really in the primary that we're talking about this.
Yeah. Well, I think that is probably the issue for many, many people in the current Democratic primary. And I'm not as in touch with the Republican, but I would say the same, that electability is a huge, huge issue right now. What electability is, however, is a very debatable issue. And I think there's a strong body of opinion that if you give people good candidates, they will be electable. And in Michigan, we had one candidate who was, I don't think it's even debatable, one who was dramatically better with a name that was really complicated, and one who was given $60 million and couldn't win the election and wasn't a very good candidate. I'm trying to be kind here, but the fact of the matter is you have to look at quality of candidates. The good news in the candidates I know best are the two ones in our Senate race are fabulous candidates. I know them both. So that'll be a cleaner look at all of this, but even they don't fit as neatly into the box that we think of. But I do think every Minnesotan should be outraged by the amount of money that Chuck Schumer has poured into this state, and it's really something that is almost un-American. Frankly, I'm outraged by it.
And that's RT Rybak on Breaking the News Plus. We appreciate you for coming on tonight.
Thanks a lot.
All right, take care. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.